Hey, everybody, it's Jason Calacanis. This is the launch ticker. It's a breaking news story and more speculation about Twitter's IPO and why, Kieran. What's the genesis of these rumors about a Twitter IPO?
So today in USA Today, there was a story about a LinkedIn job posting for Twitter. Mm-hmm. They're hiring a financial reporting manager. This is seen as a necessary position if they're going public. And in fact, the job description says they are looking for somebody to do things when they go public.
Right, and so here's the job description, which is kind of funny. It's filing S1 when we're ready to go public. They actually say that explicitly in the job posting, and this is just bizarre. Like, why would Twitter publicly post this? It makes no sense. It is the job that you need to fill, obviously, if you're going to go public, but why would you publicly post that you're going to go public when you know that creates all the speculation? And this was, of course, was it taken down like immediately?
It was, and funny enough, this was actually on the LinkedIn site for about 2 weeks before an enterprising USA Today journalist found it.
So this is, somebody screwed up. Somebody screwed up big time, because all they had to do for this is just put a technology company in the Bay Area, not San Francisco, is looking for a financial reporting person. They didn't have to put it under Twitter. So this is like, I think, a low-level or mid-level, person in HR wrote this, and boy, they're in trouble now. But we have there's been a lot of buzz around this. We have a clip actually from when?
This is from the D conference. This was in May. Kara Swisher's first question for Dick Costolo was actually about the possible IPO. Let's take a look.
Okay, here we go.
All right, let's get started on Twitter. Where should we begin?
Where do you want?
Many things.
You, whatever question you want to ask me.
When is your IPO?
As I think I always say, one of the benefits of being a private company is we don't have to talk about our plans.
I know that.
I'll tell you, I guess here's what I'll say about this. I feel like I'll use a sports metaphor.
Okay.
Something I was never very good at as a kid. So I feel like I'm this wide receiver and I'm running down the sidelines, and I'm trying to manage this business, and I'm trying to create separation from the cornerback, and the quarterback's throwing the pass, and I've got to figure out how I'm going to catch the ball. And this person on the sidelines is like, "Hey, what are you doing after the game?" And then when I say, let's assume that I stop and say, "I'm not thinking about that right now," they're like, "Oh, sure."
All right, okay.
Right? I'm in the middle of trying to run this business and build this business. Those aren't things I spend a lot of time thinking about.
Cry me a river, but nonetheless.
It wasn't a sob story. It was an awesome sports analogy. Did you like how I said, yes, I'm trying to create separation from the cornerback? That's a football thing.
False metaphor. First of all, you should be the quarterback, but that's another issue. But the fact of the matter is, most people think you're going to have an IPO. Why wouldn't you have an IPO? And if not, are you going to sell to Google then? How's that?
Most people think we're going to have an IPO?
Yes, most people feel you have an IPO.
Makes it sound like it's a party.
It's not really. Facebook, it didn't go so well for, so it can be a party for you. But how do you imagine the next stage for Twitter? Most people
It's not the way I spend my time thinking about the company. It's just
so you
not
never
what I
talk to
focus on.
bankers right now, which I've heard you are doing?
It's not what I spend my time thinking about or focusing on day to day.
All right. What is the
Okay, so there you have it, Dick Costolo on the IPO. And this isn't the first time we had, in 2009, Bistone talked about it. Back when they were, I guess, getting courted by Facebook, Zuckerberg wanted to buy Twitter, had a bunch of Twitter envy. But they have plenty of money, and they've been working on their advertising. So
why do you think it's going to happen this time, and in what time frame?
It's clearly going to happen in the next year. They just had the valuation back in May, about $10 billion by GSV Capital. They invested in the company. And the revenue's been going up, up, up. They got Adam Bain in there running revenue. You see ads constantly. They're constantly releasing new ad products. So you have promoted tweets. You have people promoting their accounts.
And they're refining everything.
And they're refining it. And as an individual, have you ever gotten an email alert that said from Twitter, like, you can advertise?
Yes.
So, that's kind of amazing. If they're going down to individual users and asking individual users if they want to advertise, that means it's not like there's a sales department saying, like, oh, well, Red Bull should advertise, or Ford or Tesla should advertise. They're just blanketing the entire, user base. That would be like Facebook emailing everybody and saying, hey, would you like to advertise?
Well, they do have that little, boost this post kind of button. But,
exactly.
Right.
And so this is something they're really focused on. They have a ton of video revenue that nobody knows about. There's about 100 different partners who are doing, embedded videos like the NBA. 140 million in revenue was one of the estimates in 2011, then 350 in 2012, so more than doubling. eMarketer projects 600 million or so for 2013. maybe $1 billion next year. This is the right trajectory to go public on. And you have to remember, this was a service that was going down on a regular basis back in 2009 or 2008. They were just trying to, Dick Costolo wasn't there yet as CEO. They were trying to get the ship in order. Now the ship's totally in order. The revenue's ramping. But you can't have big problems when you launch a company like this. So you have to have the company in really stable shape. So I think maybe we're talking a year from now, they'll be public.
So can we bet on that summer 2014?
Yeah, absolutely. Summer 2014. But the big question obviously is
Valuation?
Yeah, the valuation is the question. And I have a pretty easy way to figure out these valuations. You can do it a couple different ways. One is you can look at the number of employees. And the number of employees, a technology company, maybe if you have, $200,000 in cost per employee. Now, that's not that every employee is getting $200,000, but there might be outliers of salespeople making $1 million. There might be people making $50,000 in the kitchen, whatever. But there'll also be massive expense like overhead and stuff like that. So I always say, like, for a startup, maybe $200,000 per employee. Maybe one of these big companies, $300,000 or $400,000 in expense per employee. So you start putting that together. In their case, with 1,300 employees, you're talking about $500 million or $300, $400, $500 million just in their getting the place up and running, let alone if they're doing other investments like in data centers. They might spend $100 million on a data center. Putting that all together, $1 billion in revenue doesn't seem unlikely. $600, $700, $800 million in expense doesn't seem unlikely. So then you're maybe at $300 million in EBITDA, profit, earnings before tax and depreciation, all that other nonsense. And then you times it by 20, 30, 40, 50 times their earnings. And that would be a very generous, new company with high growth. If it had $200 million in profits, 50 times earnings, $10 billion. So I'm going to say between 10 and 12 billion 1 year from now, they'll be public.
All right.
Plus or minus 3 months.
Plus or minus 3 months. All right.
Yeah, plus or minus 3 months. All right, so there it is. Bank on it. And I don't know what today's date is, but let's just pull
July
this.
30th. Great.
So July 30th in 2014, we'll pull this, and we'll just see how close we are. I'm going to guarantee the S1 is filed before then. The S1 being, of course, the document you file in order to go public, which this position was being, started this whole speculation. So if they're trying to get this person on board, they could outsource that too, but they need to have somebody internally, which means they might have already written their S1. The S1 could come this fall, but it might take 6 months for the roadshow and that whole process, which means spring, perfect time to do it. Go out the summer, which would be very similar to Facebook.
Right, and we know Dick Costolo won't wear a hoodie when he meets with the bankers.
No, that was so stupid by Zuckerberg to do that. And also, look at how Facebook has rebounded recently. That's really good for a number of reasons. Number one, you have people will believe in social advertising again, and specifically mobile, because mobile, they had no advertisements on mobile 6 months ago. Now they're spamming the hell out of Facebook users on mobile, and it works. Well, Twitter is primarily a mobile product as well. And if Facebook can rebound like it did, went from in the teens now back up to its $38 IPO price, that's all good for the Twitter story. Facebook being in the dumps is a really bad thing for a Twitter IPO. Now that they've rebounded and mobile's the big story, it's going to be an awesome story for Twitter, and Twitter will ride right out public $10 billion. And what's critically important for Twitter is if they have that public currency, they can draw on that to buy companies like Tumblr, which would have been a great purchase for them, Instagram, which they tried to purchase but didn't, Vine they did purchase, and look how great Vine is going for them. Vine has breathed incredible new life into what they're doing over Twitter. So having that public currency is going to allow them to buy, just like Marissa's doing at Yahoo, a couple of companies a month. A couple companies a year, maybe a dozen even. I don't know how many they could assimilate and get on board. And also for employees, the employees need some liquidity there, and there's been a secondary market in shares, privately people buying the shares before the IPO. But having a public currency would make it really a great place to work, because then people who are working there can be like, oh, I'm going to get some stock options this year, I'm going to sell them, and maybe I can put a down payment or buy a car or something like that. So it's all good, and big win for Twitter. Kieran...
So your prediction one more time. Summer 2014.
2014.
$10 to $12 billion valuation.
They'll be public by then, plus or minus 2 months, and they'll be worth $10 billion plus or minus 2. Okay, that's it. We'll see you next year, and we'll see if my prediction is correct. Go to launch.co, and you can see our daily news updates. You can also get the Launch Ticker, which is our daily update. We have researchers 14 hours a day reading all the news and writing short updates for you, so you don't have to read all the tech blogs out there, and you vote on the stories. And tell us what you think of this video in the comments here on the Launch Ticker or at YouTube. And we'll see you next time. Follow @launch on Twitter. Speaking of Twitter, see you next time.